for 2 deliveries.
Welcome to episode 3 of Wednesday Night Live. We've got a great show planned for you tonight with Tim bringing us the latest vaping and advocacy news. Also, Anthony will be doing an unboxing of his November salt box from ZampleBox. And of course, our special guest tonight is Battery Mooch. So let me introduce my amazing team and co-hosts. We got Brian Power, Tim Swift, Tom Harding, Anthony, and I am your host, John Troncali. So we're going to not waste any time because we want to get right to Mooch here. So we're going to jump right into our news and advocacy with Tim Swift. Let me play your bumper there, brother.
You're muted. All right, now that I'm big and unmuted.
He's big.
There's your customary tap. All right, so we're going to talk about some news tonight, as we do every Wednesday. I'm going to keep it a little short and sweet, but let me share my screen here. We're going to get into all the goodies. Try to bring you a little bit of information on the news front, advocacy fronts. Try to cover all the bases, get everything out to everybody. I think I have a good article for next week. Really informative. I'm going to make this bigger so everybody can see. Where's the view button?
3 dots.
Yeah, I gotcha. All right, let's go 200. Well, did it make it any bigger? Can anybody see that?
That's
all right,
perfect.
good. All right, so I wanted to talk a little bit because I know everyone's probably having a bunch of election hangover right now, and I really don't want to get into that. But we did talk a little bit in the last couple of weeks about how there were a couple propositions on the table for the November 3rd ballot, most specifically affecting Colorado and Oregon. And I wanted to share those results with you. Both of these issues covered the taxation of vaping products, which I hope doesn't become a terribly rampant thing across the United States. But certain states are obviously trying to recover some revenue here. And I'm going to go over some of the details regarding exactly what these measures covered and how they impact you. On the bad news that I have to deliver is, unfortunately, both of these measures passed or were voted yes on in the November 3rd ballot. So I don't doubt that the vapors and the people that were out there and were going to the polls voted no. I have all the faith in the world. Unfortunately, I think maybe we were a little overpowered by the greater contingent of people in your states. So with regard to the Proposition EE vaping and cigarette tax in Colorado, it was passed 68% to 32% voted yes. Effectively, it creates a tax on nicotine products such as cigarettes, increasing cigarette and tobacco taxes, and dedicating revenues to various health and education programs. Ha ha ha. I highly doubt that's where the money's probably going to go, but we'll have to take their word for it, right?
Yeah.
So it effectively is going to impact you here in the future. I don't know when these particular measures go into effect. I'm going to guess probably after January 1st. I don't know if these take effect immediately. But again, Proposition EE passed on the November 3rd ballot. It was voted yes. As well as Oregon, theirs was Measure 108, effectively a similar type of tax. There is a difference between how Colorado and Oregon will be implemented. One seems to be more immediate, whereas one effectively balloons over time. So I'm not quite sure what the next steps are, being that these have now been passed into legislation. I hope that there's a way where it can be lobbied against over time and maybe get some of that corrected. However, Measure 108 did pass with very similar results, 67% to 33%. And I know this is my chronic, so I'm just going to read it for you. I unfortunately took a screenshot from another website, so I wasn't going to type all this stuff out, but I wanted to go over what these measure, or all the one's a measure, one's a proposition. I don't know what the real difference is and why they use that verbiage. Maybe that's just a state thing. So I wanted to cover what these impact, specifically the vaping part. So it says this is for Proposition EE. If you're keeping score at home, Proposition EE was for Colorado. We all know that Colorado, had the age raised to 21 recently, and now they're going to tax you. So it says this measure was designed to incrementally increase cigarette and tobacco product taxes and create a new tax on nicotine products such as e-cigarettes. In Colorado, cigarettes have been taxed at a statutory rate of 20 cents per pack, 1 cent per cigarette. Additionally, Amendment 35 of 2004 authorized an additional constitutional tax of 64 cents per pack, 3.2 cents per cigarette, for a total state levied cigarette tax of 84 cents. The ballot measure was designed to incrementally increase the statutory cigarette tax rate to $1.80 per pack by 2027. Well, the wonderful part is we're not smokers, so that tax won't affect us nearly as much. But we're not going to get out of this unscathed. Thereby increasing the total state levied cigarette tax to $2.64 per pack. Proposition EE was also designed to set minimum price requirements for cigarettes. In Colorado, tobacco products, cigars, and tobacco designed to be chewed or smoked in a pipe have been taxed at a statutory rate of 20% of the manufacturer's list price and a constitutional rate of 20% of the MLP, or the manufacturer's list price, for a total rate of 40% of the MLP. The measure was designed to incrementally raise the statutory tax rate by 22 percentage points by July 2027 for a new total state levied tobacco products tax rate of 62% of the MLP. There is a theme building here. It seems as though by 2027, their goal is to tax all tobacco products at a rate of about 60% of the wholesale or manufacturer's list price. So it just means that your e-liquids are going to cost more. Your vape devices are going to cost more. I'm going to assume that means it's coming from any angle. So whether you buy it at a local vape shop or you order it online, I'm sure that the reputable vendors will have to charge you the appropriate tax based on your state. Prior to Proposition EE in Colorado, nicotine products such as e-cigarettes were not taxed. The ballot measure creates a tax on nicotine products that would match the tobacco products tax rates. This rate will begin at 30% of the MLP in 2021. So next year it starts at 30% of the wholesale or manufacturer list price and increased gradually to 62% of the MLP by July 2027. So that is a common theme across both the proposition and the measure. It ends up being effectively the same thing. However, in Colorado, you will see a stair-step increase over time. So in the next 6 years, starting next year, it's going to increase. Now, they talked about, well, we're going to tax the hell out of the citizens in this case, because, I mean, let's face it, that's how they get a lot of their money, right? Taxes are giving you speeding tickets, things like that. This is what they claim they're going to give that money to. So, you're helping the cause, right?
Right.
So preschool programs cash fund, not really sure what that is, what that means. State education fund, rural schools cash fund, housing development grant fund, tobacco tax cash fund, whatever that means, tobacco education programs fund. If I had to say, hey, if you're going to take a little bit more of my money, put it into that one.
Yeah.
Let's get the kids off of vaping. Let's help people quit smoking, get everybody more aimed towards vaping, even though we've got kind of a battle going on there. And then last but not least, state general fund. So according to their heavy hand, this is where your money is going to go. I I have a feeling that money's probably going to go to a few of these, but probably not the ones that you want. And then what did Measure 108 do? So let's cover that. So Measure 108 increased taxes on distributors of tobacco products and other nicotine delivery systems, such as e-cigarettes, at the following rates. So if you still smoke or know people that smoke, cigarette tax at 16.65 cents per cigarette was an increase from $1.33 to $3.33 per 20 pack of cigarettes. My experience is that smokers are smokers. If you smoke and you're addicted to smoking, odds are you're going to pay whatever they charge you at the register. I mean, you're going to complain about it, but you're probably going to still buy them.
You're going to find a way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know that there's any way around it. It's a state tax, but I mean, I've been to Australia before, and the price of their cigarettes is through the roof, and people still smoke. E-cigarettes and other nicotine inhalants at a rate of 65% of the wholesale price. So the big difference here is Oregon is just going to slap it on you right away. It's not an incremental buildup. Basically, you're going to go from no tax to 65% tax on your e-cigarette materials, which is really unfortunate. I don't know how they come to these numbers, but I would have thought maybe 15%, 20%, but no, they're going for that. I mean, 65% is only 35% away from 100%. Yeah. So you do the math in your head, right? I mean, you're almost paying double for.
Well, and I mean, that's kind of what they want to do too. I mean, I think most places, at least here in Washington, tobacco's taxed at 95%. So now that they've lost all that revenue from tobacco sales, they want the exact same tax dollars out of vaping. And I mean, it's apples and oranges. You can't be taxing a, harm reduction service the same you're taxing a product, that is actively sending people to the hospital.
Yep. And that's really sort of, Anthony, the unfortunate side, because what you don't see mentioned in any of this is NRTs, right? I mean, they've got nicotine in them. So, I mean, if you're going to say vaping is a tobacco product, I mean, then NRTs might as well be the same, right? Nicotine.
Well, I think that all falls into that, most of the NRTs fall under cessation products. That's a big thing that we kind of did we mess up? We might have messed up on, classifying ourselves. Instead of trying to go through the cessation pathway, we decided to try to go through the tobacco pathway, and things like this with taxation. I mean, that's been a huge problem that we've had for sure.
Right.
Well, the other thing too is that if they say put a tax on, like, we'll just say like 60% tax in this instance, and then they want to tax it again later on, they're going to get an additional percentage wise on top of what's actually on it right now. So
and I mean, vaping's already they're already paying sales tax. Most places are paying B&O tax. I mean,
well, if you do 65% right from the start, you can come in next year at 35% and saying, what are you complaining about? This is half what we did before. Come on.
Exactly.
We did you a favor, right?
Did you a favor.
Yeah. We're giving you a break. So I mean, it's unfortunate really across the board. Cigars are getting taxed as well at 65% of the wholesale prices. I'm not a big cigar smoker. You go to a party and somebody's like, you want one? Sure. I'll, puff away sometimes, but I just don't smoke cigars. So that one doesn't impact me. Cigarettes don't impact me, but e-cigarettes do. I don't live in either of these states. So unfortunately, I'm very sorry that this is happening. But they did mention here that they were talking about inhalant delivery systems, and that's basically just their verbiage for e-cigarettes. So it just said Measure 108 defined inhalant delivery systems as a device that can be used to deliver nicotine in the form of a vapor or aerosol to a person inhaling from the device. Inhalant delivery system did not include products approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, sold solely for the approved therapeutic purposes, which is what Anthony was just talking about.
Wait, that's an interesting clause that they have in there, though, that that doesn't include products that have been approved by the FDA. So if we do get PMTA approval, that would just all of those products, which would be the only technically legal products on the market,
Right.
I mean, technically by their own verbiage shouldn't be,
Yep.
affected by that tax.
Yeah.
Correct.
So I don't want to talk too much about it because maybe they're not paying attention.
Yeah, right.
and no, they won't notice that those are FDA approved. However, I just wanted to give that brief description. So that's the outcome of the November 3rd ballot in regard to those two measures. The tax is coming, so be prepared for that in Oregon and Colorado. All right, moving along. I wanted to talk about this one only because this is an organization that I thought was rather interesting. They're not a North American-based organization. They are a conglomerate of scientists and medical officials and people in the medical field. But it's an organization called COIHAR. They basically are based out of an Italian university. However, it's interesting to see what other countries are doing with regard to tobacco harm reduction, substantiating public health, doing the research behind the products, because it outlines, or at least highlights, a very unique position that we're in America, where we don't really have a public health system that works in the same regard. We all have insurance or we don't have insurance, but we don't really have an advocate or a country where, obviously we're fighting a vaping war. However, in all these other countries where medicine is a little bit more socialized, they are looking to try to help people improve on things. But we hear a lot of talk about, or negative talk about how vaping, in fact, is more dangerous than smoking, but we have a lot of people, older people specifically, who've walked away from smoking to try to help with some of the symptoms that they have from smoking all those years, COPD being one of them. And this particular organization, and I'll read a little bit about who they are, but they did a 5-year study on the improvements in vapors and the effects of e-cigarettes on COPD in those particular patients.
Wow, 5 years too. That's a pretty long one. That's good.
Stuff.
Yeah, which is fantastic because I've always said, especially when all this kind of went down with the Valley cases last year, and you had all these doctors coming in and talking negatively about vaping. They've had anywhere from a decade to 13 years approximately to really study vaping. And they did nothing until the last year. So that's all we hear over here is, oh, well, we don't have enough to substantiate the claims that it's 95% safer and all that other stuff. However, all these other countries have been studying this for quite some time, especially the UK and places of that origin. So I just want to talk about who they are. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail, all of the particular talking heads, but just to give people a background on exactly who COIHAR is. Apparently, they've been around for quite some time, but they're based out of Italy. They are a unique multidisciplinary research center focusing on promotion of best science and harm reduction via innovation, knowledge sharing, and globalization. I like that word, globalization. I hope that we can graduate to a point where North American-based scientists start using the global medical community to look at information around vaping and how it could be beneficial. Although I know we're fighting a political war in that regard, and science may not always win against legislation and some of the stuff that we see going on, like the MSA and things like that. But they're specifically focused on harm reduction. They have a lot of projects and studies going on. And feel free to go over to coihar.org and read up if you want to know who they are. Maybe you're somebody watching the show that's in the medical field and you want to know more about what these people do. They're made up of 100 members. They're specialists, including academics, doctors, professors, and technical operators from the University of Catania. I think I'm saying that correct, and other international partners. Their research is based around conducting and implementing international research projects with a multidisciplinary approach, useful in assessing the impact on public health when alternative tools are used instead of cigarettes. Research Center focuses on the quality of life, smoking cessation and harm reduction. So they have a unique and specific focus, which they're not really, granular and doing 100 different things. They're pretty well focused. Interdisciplinary. We have created a network of scientists, more than 50 academics from the University of Catania, from various disciplines, who work together to carry out internationalization projects that will revolutionize science and innovation. So the thing that I wanted to talk about, which came up in the press, was the COPD study. And I'll read the majority of it, just so I think it's important to hear what these people had to say rather than me just kind of brush over the topics. It was a 5-year follow-up on COPD smokers who switched to e-cigarettes. If anyone has any commentary along the way, please feel free to jump in. And there is a lengthy study. If you really want to see this, when I first read this article, I was like, oh my goodness, they're saying a bunch of stuff, but they got nothing to back it up. Well, I didn't notice this big red link that says COPD smokers who switch to e-cigarettes, health outcomes at a 5-year follow-up. I did go here. I mean, it's breathy. I mean, it goes into full detail regarding the methods, the study design, the study assessments, all this other stuff. If you are somebody who likes to get down in the weeds of information, but what I would say with something like this is that if somebody wants to come at you with the argument like, oh, well, vaping, will enhance COPD, go, and you can throw these articles at them and go, here's a study that was done to prove otherwise. So
another one for the bucket, huh?
Exactly.
Chop this one up.
Yeah. Well, we love to tout the Royal College of Physicians study, which is even more breathy than this one. I mean, it's quite extensive, and I guess unless you're a real mathematician, some of it's hard to understand.
I feel like a lot of times the politicians or your representatives and senators are always like, oh, that we don't have enough data. The study didn't run long enough. Vaping hasn't been around long enough, and to have one, that's half a year or half a decade of information, I think is huge.
It's crucial, but these are things. This is information that you can give to people that want to have that conversation or that particular argument. And you can go, hey, congratulations, Dave. Way to go, buddy.
Congrats, Dave.
Okay.
So if you really, I'll provide links for everybody, but here's the full study if you want to read on that. But it says, I don't even know how to say this. Kohar. I'll just say Kohar. Researchers have just published the longest clinical follow-up of e-cigarette users ever reported. The study, COPD smokers who switched to e-cigarettes, health outcomes at a 5-year follow-up, explores the long-term effects of e-cigarette use in patients with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease and confirms that regular use can ameliorate, that is a 3-point word for all you Scrabble players.
You get a bonus.
Thank you. Objective and subjective COPD and is long-lasting. So they're basically stating in their studies that regular use of e-cigarettes is beneficial to people with COPD. It improves their lung function. COPD patients who switch from conventional smoking to regular vaping achieve sustained abstinence, resulting in a 50% reduction in COPD exacerbations and overall improvement in exercise tolerance and quality of life. Crucial statement right there. I mean, that's just like a BAM statement. 50%. That's monstrous. This isn't a very long article, so it says full text, but I'll read it. Chronic obstructive pulmonary disease compromises a group of smoking-related lung conditions that cause breathing difficulties, and which includes emphysema and chronic bronchitis. The study identified from the medical records of 4 Italian hospitals a group of COPD patients. So rather than test mice, pregnant mice at that, in a machine that makes them vape 4 to 6 hours a day, 5 to 7 days a week, they actually worked with people who have the condition, smokers transitioning to vaping. That's how research should be done.
Yep.
They underwent yearly outpatient visits for a total of 5 years. By the end of the follow-up, complete data sets were available for 39 COPD patients, 20 in the group of COPD patients using e-cigarettes, and 19 in the control group of COPD regular smokers. Although smoking cessation should be always the top priority for smokers with COPD, high relapse rates are very common in smokers with COPD, and quitting therapies, i.e. NRTs, nicotine replacement therapies, bupropion. I know about that one. And I don't know about Varenicline, whatever. Appear to have only fairly small effects on sustained cessation in patients with COPD who smoke. So Wellbutrin has been noted to be a smoking cessation method. It's not one that's common. It's usually like a last resort prescription. But we all know NRTs are not highly successful. Patients experience difficulty in completely ceasing nicotine use, and they may require prolonged treatment and or sustained nicotine use to attain continued abstinence from smoking. An alternative for patients with COPD who are having difficulty at quitting is that of substituting conventional cigarettes with combustion-free nicotine delivery devices such as e-cigarettes, and to reduce harm from chronic prolonged cigarette smoke exposure. Here's the results. Cohars researchers have observed marked and sustained reduction in the daily consumption of conventional cigarettes in COPD patients who were also vaping, with an overall reduction of more than 80% from baseline. The main finding is that patients with COPD who abstain from smoking by swapping to vaping experience clinically relevant health improvements. And we hear people talk about it all the time, how people started vaping and they can breathe much better again. They can engage in more activity again. So, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. Patients who switched to vaping reduced their yearly COPD exacerbations by about 50% and significantly improved cardiorespiratory health compared to the control population of COPD patients who continued to smoke cigarettes. Conclusion. The findings of the study are valuable because many COPD patients show little interest in quitting or reducing cigarettes in spite of their symptoms. Switching to much less harmful substitutes may limit the suffering of many COPD patients, and their physicians should consider all the options available and opt for the ones that provide the greatest probability of stopping exposure to tobacco smoke, including e-cigarettes. So people that go to the doctor, who have their doctors who you go, oh, well, doc, I don't smoke, I vape. And then the doctor flips his lid and tells you that you're going to lose all your teeth and you're going to die because you're vaping. You know, refer them to articles like this and say, well, you should do some research on your own. These are look at the 5-year study on people with COPD and pulmonary issues and vaping and how it's improved their health dramatically. And they can look at the credentials of the people that are in this group. I mean, trust me, it is. I mean, you go to the About Us section on this page. I mean, you've got all kinds of people. They can, do their background. Now, granted, they're all Italian.
Hey. No.
I mean, but I just think this is crucial research that's being done elsewhere in foreign countries. And I think that some of that should be brought to the U.S. shores. And we should have organizations like this that do similar things. I don't understand why more doctors don't get involved in trying to promote public health rather than just get, substantiated by big pharma and push drugs on us and tell us that, it's really bad. Anyway, anybody have any questions? I'm not an expert on what happened here. It's just information.
There was a question in chat, Tim.
Yes.
What flavor of pudding?
Because he was saying the proof is in the pudding.
Get
it?
I'm torn on that one because as a kid I liked lemon and chocolate.
Play it safe. Go with butterscotch.
I was wondering if Anthony had any news about what was going on in Oregon. Did you guys get the rumblings of that in Washington when it was?
There's some rumblings going around. We actually here in Washington, we just repealed a B&O tax that was affecting vaping. So we saved some money this year on vaping, but I mean, there still is a tax here in Washington on vapor products. I want to say it's 95% of the wholesale cost, if I'm correct. But yeah, I mean, it's that time of year again, and we're only getting into the thick of it. As we move more into January and February, I mean, we're going to see more and more action along the legislative front regarding vaping.
Okay. And then I'm just going to close on this last thing. I apologize to everybody on this one. I did put this up on my Twitter this morning, but this happened today. Maybe we can get some information from some of our viewers who live in Kansas City, Missouri. But they are, through all this election fog and smoke, that's going on around us, Kansas City, Missouri decided to proceed forward with a hearing regarding a flavor ban in Kansas City, Missouri. CASA had it up on the calls to action to submit testimony. I believe that while you may not have been able to appear in person, you could have called in. You could have, there were several different methods for how you could have gotten in, but CASA set you up to actually send a letter to the Kansas City, Missouri hearing board. I do not know if the floor is closed on this measure. Obviously, Kansas City is behind me. I hope that there is still some time for people to respond. Excuse me. But this went on under the cover of everything else. And that's why I talk about speaking up against House Bill S-1253 and the Postal Service vape mail ban, is that they're going to use some distractions to put this through at some point if it can't be stopped. So there's your advocacy for the day. Kansas City, Missouri people, pay attention, follow up on your state.
Get active.
Get active, stay active, pay attention.
And
Thanks.
Oregon too, Colorado, all you people, get active.
Yeah. I mean, that number was pretty drastic, 61%. I know there's quite a few less smokers and vapors than there are people that don't, but it's still, that number is shocking.
But even though it was wrapped up in one big happy little package, you would have thought that people that smoke would have gone to the polls and seen that and been like, why are you going to take more of my money?
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Well, let's get to our guest. So joining us tonight is the man that should change his name to Mr. Safety. He's the reason our community is much safer using our vaping devices, and also made math cool again. You made math cool again, Mooch. You did. Welcome to the show, Mooch, and thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us here tonight.
Thanks for the invite. My apologies for everyone watching me walk around the room while I was listening to the news. On my phone, it doesn't show a picture of me, so I thought I was not being seen by everybody. And then in horror, I fired up the iPad and I'm like, oh, I was live. So luckily I wasn't doing anything else, just pacing. I go insane if I sit for more than 15-20 minutes because I work at home. Yeah. So I'm yes, you can go do this and go do that, but in the end it just starts accumulating, and sitting for more than a little while I go nuts. So I thought it was a nice chance to stretch, and oh well, thank God I had shorts on, just.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
you were the rest of us don't have pants on. That's
exactly. Yeah,
we have our
stand up, it's trouble.
Yep, our Zoom meeting attire is on here, so.
Oh man, I want to let everybody on the YouTube and Facebook side know, if you have questions for Mooch, please post them on there. We will get to those questions as soon as we're done ours. We're taking questions from both platforms and saving them to ask Mooch during the end of our question period. So I'm going to jump right into our first question for you, Mooch. And my question to you is, tell us a little bit about your background in the field and how this all came about.
Which field?
Your field that you're in, that you're using for batteries, your battery knowledge. You're an engineer, correct?
Okay, yeah. Since 1992, I've been working full time on my own as a power electronics designer, engineer, which is power supplies, battery chargers, battery management systems, things that discharge batteries, energy harvesters to get power from heat, light, vibration, some other things, and casually from the mid 80s, I've been in that field. I was a professional photographer, but ended up spending more time modifying my equipment and modifying the equipment for other photographers. I said, you know what? I'm going back, I'm going to go this to full time. I came up through an engineering high school, believe it or not, engineering university, electrical engineering, and left that to go into commercial photography because in the 80s and 90s in New York City, there was good money to possibly made there. But then it got brutally competitive. I was doing electronics anyway, went back into it, decided to go full time because I'm just not a 9-to-5er at all. And started vaping 5 years ago, about 5.5 now. And the first thing I saw was what was an EFS 35 amp battery, 18650. And I just, with two friends had given me a couple of astoundingly dangerous janky box mods to try it out and see what vaping was all about. And I'm like, okay, these are death traps, but I can fix that with some hot glue. But this battery, and I just got really, really angry, really, really angry. And I realized, for me, the transition from smoking to vaping was overnight. I saw this was the way out after 30 years of being a light stress-only smoker, but I couldn't stop when I was stressed. I have the oral fixation. I chew my nails. I, destroy straws and pencils and everything. So smoking was a way to address the oral fixation and handle some of the stress with the chemical cocktail that you get. So vaping took care of the oral fixation, which left me strong enough to take care of the rest, the chemical driven. I don't know if addiction is the right word for me, but I couldn't stop, so perhaps it is.
Yeah.
And the point I was getting at before I diverted to that was anyway.
Mad.
Yeah, I was angry, and what I wanted to do was say, look, this community in a period of days had found a way for me to do something I couldn't do in 30 years my own. It's just something I can do. I'm angry anyway. That's going to, make me want to do something anyway. But hey, it's also a way to help pay back the community. After several months of being screamed and yelled at and abused by the community I was trying to serve, because everyone knew EFS were 35 amp batteries. But I had a 5-year plan for education, because essentially you're changing it fundamentally how people look at something. And batteries weren't blowing up all over the place. It was really just how to use them better and more safely. It wasn't until about 2018 or so when we all started setting ourselves on fire, leading to a lot more of attention, et cetera, and so forth. But it was that just taking the knowledge that I built up after, a couple of decades of working with power electronics and working with batteries and ultracapacitor hybrid systems for starting motorcycles or other internal combustion engine vehicles, and using that battery knowledge. There's nothing special. You don't have to read or study anything. You certainly don't go to school for that. Well, you could, some graduate programs and stuff, but you're learning the electrochemistry. You're not learning the practical applications in any school, anything practical about the use of batteries and ratings and how China works and all these things. That came through just years of being exposed to it and learning the hard way that the utter and complete bullshit that is inflicted upon the community by people who take a $2.50 battery and charge us $13 for it.
Yeah.
No doubt.
No doubt. That's true. Let me also get this out there. Let me, where was I here? I had it here.
I think I might have answered your question and all that too.
You
I'm not sure.
You did. Before we dig any deeper, I want to help those viewers that may not be following you on social media with some of your links. So I'm going to post Mooch's 3 links to his your Facebook page, your YouTube channel, and your blog. So I'll have those on there for guys to come follow you on there. And let me get into my second question, and then I'll let the rest of the guys jump in there. When you first got started doing all this, did you think one morning you were going to wake up and start writing blogs on battery safety?
Well, I knew I had to document what I was saying. I knew that my methodology would be questioned. I knew that just the basic concepts of what I was going to try to tell people, that these ratings are bullshit. I knew that it had to be an educational portion of what I was doing. You just can't tell people, no, this isn't true. You have to be able to, and you can't just tell them technically why it's not true, because there's no basis in understanding battery science and what's going on with batteries and how they function for them to be able to say, oh, Mooch, what you're saying is true. What you have to do is lay out a long-term plan to educate the community while you're releasing some of the information. And that took maybe 2 years or so before people finally started going, oh, now I'm starting to see this, capacity versus current rating. You can't have both. You can have a high current rating or high capacity kind of thing, and all this other stuff to go out beyond mainly, hey, the Z-Fest isn't 35 amps. How can I become a better vapor? How can I understand? It's sort of like the equivalent I would use is instead of just memorizing a recipe, it's learning how to cook and realizing why the ingredients are in a recipe. So now you can play with the recipe and make it what you want it, as opposed to just going, does someone have another recipe I can copy? Not knowing why any of those ingredients work together. So if you get that bigger picture, now 99.99% of vapors just couldn't care less about the bigger picture. They're not slightly been interested in an education. Just what's the fracking best battery? That's it. That's what they want to know. And that I understand. No one wants to have to learn something, on there. And, listen to the few people, a few hundred people out there who go, yeah, like me, love to learn things.
Yeah.
And
it's got to be more than a couple hundred, Mooch.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've got,
think of all the
no,
vape
not
shops
for
out
learning.
there, man.
For being exposed to the truth, there might be a couple of, a few thousand.
Right.
For learning, that's I think a few hundred. That's someone who says, yeah, I've got the time for this, and I'm fascinated by it. But, because it's not just like learning science. It's not like going to a YouTube channel and Veritasium or other these science channels and getting some general kind of science thing where the topic changes each week and you're picking up some little tidbits and stuff. No, this is just batteries. And devices and mechs and how some devices work and some other things. But it's surprisingly small number of people, but that's okay. But it took me a long time to find how to do this mix. Most of it came to the tables and stuff. No one's going to read this freaking long test report except a few hundred people. Well, how do I take 350 test reports or something I have now, different ones, and turn it into a table where they can, or a video where they can just get the best batteries. And even that is more than what they want to deal with, a 7-minute video. They're like, 10 choices. What do you, just tell me the one best battery. Yeah, even top 3, their heads explode.
I mean, there's just so much there to say, for you to tell someone this is the one best battery. I mean, there's so much more involved with that, of like what device you're using, how you're vaping. I'm sure you just can't like say this is the best battery for everyone. Yeah,
it's just sizes. It's 18650 or 21700. That's about the two sizes that are really left now, and it's still the 18350 crowd and stuff like that. But I finally came to the conclusion where, look, Mooch, at least pick a best all around. In a couple of different sizes, and that's what that video is. My best batteries on there, because so many times, I'll tell someone, they'll say, hey, Mooch, should I get HG2, VTC6, or 30Q? Those very popular 3000 milliamp hour, 1520 amp batteries. I feel the most popular of all the cells out there. A good balance for power and running time. And you tell them, forget the HG2. It doesn't perform as well. It's hard to find. Why bother with it? Get the VTC6 or the 30Q. Yeah, but Mooch, I want the best. Which one should I pick? They're both exactly the same, either one. But Mooch, I want the best one. I'm this, I'm that. Tell me which one's the best. And you're just like, all right, get the 30Q. Whatever came to my mind first. So like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. They don't. So many people don't want to think. They just want to be told, and I'm not faulting them for that. They don't have time for it. They just want to be told what to buy. And I'll try occasionally a little education, get the VTC6. It may give you a little bit more running time. But as soon as they come back and go, yeah, but I want the best battery.
Yeah.
In my mind, I just told them which one's the best, but I didn't say the best battery. So I just say, get the VTC6, it's the best battery. You always have to add that, whatever they're looking for, say that in a sentence on there. And so it's been a real education for me as to how people want to be told something on a lot of things. And then there's the refreshing things that come along once in a while to change it up when someone goes, I noticed that it seems like the AC internal resistance in this battery seems to drop 8 to 12% when it's over 45 degrees Celsius or so for non-continuous discharges. And I'm like, oh,
I speak my language.
And you can really start getting into it. I'm like, yes, but that's only down to like 3.2 volts, and then this happens and that happens, and I'm like, oh yeah, I kind of noticed that, and so that can satisfy my total nerddom, and still get the information across, and but it's always kind of interesting to see how that works out, and particularly in other countries, like the Philippines. Evidently, I'm huge over there, and they all think I'm Filipino because all the messages are in Tagalog. One of the most popular languages in the Philippines, and I have a saved response saying, "Hey, I'm just an American living in the U.S. I'd love to help, but it's got to be in English." Because I with 150, 200 questions a day, I cannot keep going back to Google Translate. On things.
Well, Tom's got some questions for you. You're up, Tom.
Okay. How did the name Mooch come about?
Mooch is a one syllable from a spectacularly unfortunate grade school nickname. It's sort of my way of empowering myself or striking back from the years, as a grungy dressed, grungy looking, Natalie dressed bookworm of a nerd. You get teased a lot for years and years and years. So this is kind of, and that stays with you for the rest of your life. Yeah. So this is kind of my way of just asserting myself and getting back on that, to take, oh, okay, you called me by that? Well, now I'm going to go make $1 million a year off of it.
Yeah. That's a really good way to get back to people.
Which is settled into $30 a month in YouTube fees, but I'll take that as revenge anyway.
Well, yeah. I mean, as long as you're getting some kind of a compensation for it.
Yeah.
How often do you have to recalibrate your equipment for testing?
I do it typically every 2 years now. When you first get the equipment, it's calibrated. I often get what's called NIST level calibration, NIST, for certain very special pieces of equipment, because it's stunningly expensive, but it's an international standard. It's calibrated to, so no one can question what it is. I get tested then each year. If I get 2 years in a row where it doesn't need a calibration, or I'm seeing the calibration adjustment being smaller and smaller, then I go to every 2 year cycle. If two 2 year cycles, the second 2 year cycle doesn't need calibration, then I'll go to a 5 year cycle, because the equipment's settled in and it doesn't drift. And so much of the equipment I use can be double checked against each other. It's easy to fire up, 2 Fluke multimeters, hook them up to anything, and if they're reading within 1,000th of a volt of each other, I'm not calibrating them that year because nothing's happened.
Nothing happened.
Makes sense.
So it's gone from a couple grand a year in calibration cost to a couple hundred, maybe a few hundred if a few pieces of equipment all come together. But it's necessary. When you've got just for the main testing stations I use for vaping and some other things now, and the 2 other smaller testing stations, it's about 22,000 in equipment. So if you're spending $1,000 a year, that's not bad in terms of maintenance. And you just pray you don't have to replace anything.
Right. And my final question, what are some of the worst performing batteries you've tested?
Oh, it's been a while. They've gotten a lot better because they just realized they can't get away with it. Well, worst performing. The answer to that question, I don't think is the one you're looking for, because the worst performing batteries are the 2 and 3 amp laptop and power amp batteries, because they're designed to be 2 and 3 amp hour, 2 and 3 amp laptop and power bank batteries. But in terms of bullshit over ratings, which may be more of what you're looking for, the iJoy 2350s, the first batch had faulty spot welds because they were all spot welded by hand, and the spot welding is amazing, because you've got this roll of stuff, this jelly roll of things, and they pack it into the steel can. There's an 1/8-inch hole down the middle of this spiral roll of stuff, and a little metal tab coming out of the roll of stuff, and the tab lays against the bottom of the battery, and then they put an electrode through the center of it to touch to press down against the metal tab against the bottom of the battery, and another electrode is outside the battery, and they spot weld it to the inside of the battery, blind. They have no idea what's going on in there. And then the other one is spot welded. You take the cap, you spot weld the positive tab to the underside of the cap, you put the cap in place, crimp it over, and you have a battery, or at least a metal can battery. Well, iJoy was blasting the hell out of the spot welds, and there was like 2 or 3 thousandths of an inch of metal still, that hadn't exploded out of the way at the bottom of the battery, because they never thought anyone would peel a battery apart, and they did. And it's the reason why they're getting failures and miserable performance, because it's really high resistance when you only have a hair width of metal connecting your battery. And so that was one of the worst. They redid a little bit of their. That's all automated, by the way. Samsung, Sony, LG, they use machines to do that. So literally 1 million batteries a day. All right, that's an exaggeration. 250,000 batteries a day that could run off, and every single one's going to have the same quality spot welds. So that's off the top of my head. Other than things like where you see an 80 amp rating on a 18650, all the crap, Enoch. I forgot some of the other names that have faded.
Any of the batteries with fire in the name.
Fire.
Yeah, there we go. Which I never even tested, because most vapors know, just don't even bother.
Yeah.
But the genuine Trust Fires and other ones aren't bad 10 amp, 15 amp batteries or something like that. But there are 10 times as many fakes for those as there are real ones. And it's the fakes that are using 2 amp and 3 amp cells, reclaimed power bank batteries, or just power bank batteries. A 2 amp battery is cheaper than a 20 amp battery. That's what they're going to use for the fakes. A few. What was being faked? The HG2s were being faked like crazy in 1918. Ha!
It feels that long ago.
That was a really good year. That was a really good year for batteries. I remember
the war years.
Year for vaping.
Such good memories. 1918. I have such good memories back then. But HG2s, which is one reason why I just stopped recommending them. Also, that it's not the best performing of that class of battery, and they're being faked like crazy. So there was some miserable performance of those.
Mooch, I have a battery that's that old, Mooch. I have one of the original Benjamin Franklin wooden batteries they used to use in the trains.
Holy cow.
I used to work for Exide. And and I went
So what was that, carbon, like carbon plates and
simple there's 6 cells in it. They look like they were canteens at one time. And so wooden frame. And I went up in the hills here in California to pick up some batteries that were recycled. And the guy goes, "Hey, can you take these?" And I was like, "I don't know." And he lifted the lid up, and there were 25 of these, all in pretty mint condition. So I go, "You realize what those are?" He goes, "Yeah, I know what they are. I just want to get rid of them."
Yeah.
I called my boss up. I was like, "What do I pick these up, or are we going to get a core for those?" He goes, "Who gives a shit about the core? Pick those batteries up. They want them in Pennsylvania." I was like, "All right, whatever."
I'd love a case, like the outside of it, dump the acid, and all that stuff, recycle that in some way, hopefully, or, bring it to a hazardous waste dump or something. But just have those old fashioned cases and cans and stuff like that would be cool. That would be a neat little bit of history. And then I would polyfill it with like lipos or something and turn it into a big power bank or something like that.
Ooh, you gave me a great idea there. Who's up is Brian. Brian's got some questions for you.
Yeah. So when you first started, you actually started making a chart. And when I worked at shops, I would always have copies of that chart for our customers. And we would carry the batteries that you would actually recommend on those charts for certain ratings. And I would show them the ratings and recommend the batteries that they would actually need. I noticed there was a time where you actually changed your chart. And you went into this big spiel about it. What made you change that design?
In terms of the what I call the maximum vaping amps, the MVA rating?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
The big yellow side.
Yeah, it was originally what I tried to do is say, okay, look, here's a VTC6, a 15 amp battery, but continuous current ratings are great for if you stay under it, it's about 45 watts. So let's say you vape to 45 watts or 15 amps on a mech. It'd be pretty miserable on a, well, no, if you're high resistance vapor, that's enough power. But let's say, well, whatever, 45 watts, maybe 2, 3, or 4 of them in a regulated device. Thing is, we're using them 2, 3, 5 seconds at a time. So you can, let's say, use the VTC6 at 25 amps or something. That's actually really abusive, and you're shortening the cycle life of the battery. But vapors don't care about that too much. We care about having something small or having high power, for a particular size or something like that. We want to use these as hard as we possibly can. We're not really worried about.
Uh-oh, Mooch. It looks like you're losing your connection there.
Bring him back. Bring him back.
Bring him back.
Batteries are out of juice.
While he's trying to reconnect, I saw a couple good questions come up. And I know somebody's taking notes. All those. There's some really good questions in there. But just for the people watching the show, a lot of people might not know who Mooch is, right? So if you're like in all of the multitude of vaping groups and private groups and public groups and this insider community and that insider community, Mooch is instrumental in directing you to the right batteries for your devices. So when you post that question that says, what battery should I get for this? What battery? And 50 of us come back and go and give you a link to Mooch's recommendations list. That's who you should follow. Not to say that we don't have our own opinions on what batteries we like to use or what's the best or what we prefer, but Mooch is your reference. So regard what he has to tell you, whether you care about the science and the education. We always recommend Mooch to everybody who's like looking for the quote unquote best battery.
Yeah, I mean, even to Brian's point, at my shop, I was the same way. I had Mooch's list on the counter. Those are the batteries that I bought and carried and lived and died by and recommended to people.
Right.
There's not a better authority on vape batteries than Mooch. He is the man. Which he's over here.
Yeah, I think he's still a little frozen. Yeah.
And I tell everybody too, Mooch is the gold standard when it comes to batteries and battery testing.
Yep.
Follow him and listen to what he says and watch his charts.
Yep.
With Anthony's point with the shops and stuff, like he was saying, our shops that we had up here, we had a lot of issues of people coming in running a DNA 200 or mech devices, and they had like an AWT in them or an Imran or something like that in there, and I'm like, whoa. First thing I would do is take
those damn Imrans, man.
I would take the batteries out first. I said, okay, now we can talk.
Yeah.
So what I would do is I would start talking to them about it and show them the chart and show them the ratings and stuff and how like what they were using it for wasn't actually accurate to the withstanding of their batteries. And that's how issues come to play, because what you're doing is the batteries themselves, you're actually overheating them to the point, and they're actually getting very restrictive. And so what happens is that these batteries will actually get hot, and when they get hot, that's their thermal meltdown point. And so like in mechs, regulated devices isn't as much, but mainly in mechs and series boxes, parallel boxes, stuff like that is usually the bigger issues of everything else, where there's not as much safety measures in play.
Right.
Hey,
he's back.
You're back.
That was very weird. I could hear you guys. I could see myself live on the little thumbnails, and I could hear everything you were saying. But
we were just lauding you.
Yes, thank you for the kind words. Luckily, no one can see me blushing. I'm actually going to close chat over here, but it's really just the whole building coming off of dinner and firing up the TVs to watch election stuff, I think. Actually, I'm going to shut that down. Okay. Were we question why? Oh, NBA vaping amps. For a lot of applications, 2, 3, 5 seconds at a time. Where can we pick a number that you can in relative safety? Well, what that number very quickly became was the starting point for everybody, for a large number of vapors. Hey, Mooch said, 25 amps on a VTC6 is safe, which I never said, but that's what always gets turned into. Vapors want to condense everything down to good, bad, yes, no, safe, unsafe. So if it's this thing that has dependencies and assumptions, like it could be safe, it's not really dangerous. Oh, so it's safe? Well, no, it's just not really dangerous. Oh, okay, so it's safe then. That's what it gets turned into. So what happened was they took this maximum vaping amps rating that I had, maybe I forgot what it was, 20 amps or something, 25 amps for VTC6, and they said, that's where you start. And I saw it popping up in everyone's recommendations. New vapors coming in. Yes, it's 15 amps, but Mooch says you can use it at 25. Well, technically that's correct, but there's a little, no one wants to, everyone just wants to be able to do that, and they don't want to take the extra 10 seconds to explain, well, why don't you start at 15 and see what's going on? Not even beginning to discuss the performance hit at 25 amps on a 15 amp battery. And I realized this is just getting abused. It's just ridiculous. And I took it out and I stopped because of the abuse by the vaping community of those ratings. Not everybody, but enough people that it just started getting silly. And nobody was looking at the performance.
Right.
You lose 40% of your runtime. Your 3,000 milliampere hour battery is a 2,000 milliampere hour battery if you're running it that hard. And I realized, take away that NVA rating, that high pulse rating, call out any battery company that's using the same bullshit, and because they just want big numbers on the wrap, and start start a new policy of education now. Hey, look, we've talked about safety for 3-4 years. Let's add performance onto this now. And that's what I've been emphasizing now, because the safety part, the community is pretty aware of. But, when is a 2,000 milliampere hour battery going to run longer than a 3,000 milliampere hour battery? That's the kind of thing that I'm concentrating more on now. And that's part of, after all the abuse from the community, just taking those ratings, going, okay, I'm going to stop doing that. And here's another reason why. It's not just because you're all abusing it. It's because there's a performance aspect of it too that I did not want to bring up in the start, because bringing up performance and safety and, people's heads were already exploding. I didn't want to go any further with it.
One analogy I like to use to people with batteries, I think it really helps, especially with our viewers that listen here, is you take two cars. You take one and you drive it at 10 miles an hour, the same amount of fuel, and you'll actually go longer, but you won't have as much power. If you take another car, you floor it all the way, you'll get there faster. Probably you go there faster, but you use up all your fuel quicker, and you have a high rate of destroying your engine.
Yeah, there we go.
Best analogy I could
figure out. MPG for city versus country driving, almost kind of analogy, but to the extremes. Drag race MPG versus highway driving MPG.
Right.
You can get 9 gallons to the mile in a drag race, but you can get 50 miles, and that's how you can do it. And the other one I do is a car analogy I do is people go, well, Mooch, the 15 amp rating for the VT6, that's bullshit. I've been using 25 amps since 1614. Man, I was there when the Goths invaded Germania, and I was vaping back then, and I'm telling you, man, you can use it at 25 amps. I'm like, well, yeah, okay, well, how about this? Your car at 7,000 RPM. You can run it at 1,000, but how long is your car going to last?
Right.
And they're like, oh, and it's just little things like that I'm starting to learn. You got to start coming up with, because otherwise it's just too easy to say, I've been vaping for 9 years and I've never had a problem using a 15 amp battery at 25 amps. And you probably never will, but I'd like you to be educated, not in any bad way, but I'd like you to just know that you can get more runtime from a different battery, namely a 25 amp rated battery, than having this 15 amp battery screaming for its life every second you use it. And those two batteries are probably about the same price. And you might still go, well, I bought 25 of them. I'm going to use them, until they all break away. And I go, that's fine. All I want you to do is know that there is maybe another option, or know what might be the better performer. I'm not asking you to buy anything or to replace anything. We're all free to vape whatever way we want to. If you want to vape at 80 amps on a 5 amp battery, that is your choice. I just ask you to stay out of the news, but that's your choice. I just want to expose you to the information so you can make the best choice for the way you vape and the way you feel. That's it.
Yeah.
Now, do you think like shops should have your chart on hand to really help out with new customers?
Should? No
Okay.
shoulds. That's their decision. Totally. I'm not a battery expert. I'm not some kind of authority. I'm a person who's had a long background in power electronics and some battery testing. I've tested a lot of batteries, a couple thousand, at least 325, 350 different batteries. That doesn't make me an expert. That makes me know a lot about the application of a certain subset of batteries, for radio control, electric skateboard use, vaping. But I'm not some authority that people should be using. Never going to consider myself that. If they find the information useful, if they think that can help their customers, then by all means, it's out there for them to use. Some couple of shops I know would just have a rotation of some playlist, minding your mom's playlist on the monitor in the back. And if a new and they would just go sit over there and come back in an hour, kind of thing, and just expose them to something. But most new vapors don't even want to think about the concept of there may be more than one battery. They just want the shop to go, this is what you want.
Right.
On that they at the most they'll want to be confused by maybe choices of flavor. That's about it, or what color device to get, something that's more fun, more entertainment value as opposed to educational. But for the shop on their own, if they find it valuable, then please. And I answer questions from a lot of shops who go, hey, I had a customer who came in with this, or I had a shop from France contact me earlier today going, I think I have some fake VTC6s. I said, all right, send me some pictures. Let's try to sort this out. So they don't have to sell them to their customers in case they are fake.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I personally reached out to you maybe four years back or so at my shop when I think it was when probably the peak of like the HG2 fakes started landing here in the US.
Yeah, I remember that too.
Okay.
I think Mooch locked up again.
Yeah.
There he is.
Batteries are low. Oh, there we are.
Okay. Yeah, I usually get the spinning circles of death. One at a time, your face would disappear with spinning circles of death, and that's where I know, oops.
Well, I know you went through a purge a while ago, a few years ago. I think it was a year and a half ago, and you started going through every single battery that was on the market and started compiling your list together. Are you finally caught up with all that testing?
Spinning circle time, like Vapcell comes out with like 10 new batteries a month. A lot of the other companies will take their old batteries and rewrap them in a new wrap so it looks exciting and interesting and different, because vapors will flock to anything that's different. Even if you tell them it's exactly the same, they'll go, yeah, but it's purple now. So it's just, we love buying new stuff. We like showing it to our friends. We like, having stuff. We're hobbyists. We're enthusiasts. And the battery wrapping companies know that. Now, the big manufacturers, once a year, maybe, like Molicel with the M50A, a pretty nice performing 5,000 milliamp hour, 10, 12 amp battery, fantastic for either dual 21700 moderate power levels or low power level vapor, or if you're doing other things, other uses, power banks or things like that. It's astounding battery for that. But otherwise, for Molicel, maybe 2 years. Before that, for Samsung, Sony, LG, those companies, every year, maybe every 2 years, they'll have something, and we don't get to see it until a couple of years after it comes out too, because these companies don't sell to us. We can only get it on the gray market or through illicit sales, excess inventory, diverted shipments, things like that. So, like the VTC 5A, the enthusiast battery people out there were like, holy cow, look at this thing. I found the data sheet for it. We couldn't even buy it for 2 years after that, because someone had to buy 250,000 of them, use 200,000 of them, sell the 50,000 off, and then that made its way to the vaping community. And then we didn't see any for months because no one else had
Nobody
excess
else.
inventory for a while.
I want to touch on something you talked about just a few minutes ago about battery manufacturers, and I remember seeing something about bins, like the testing. When they finish making a battery, they test it. If it meets their standards, it goes in a certain bin, and then if it doesn't, if it gets a different rating or a lower rating, goes in another bin. Those bins are sold to these rewraps. Am I right? Uh-oh.
So
He's got the circle of death.
Yeah.
What was that? The Xbox ring of death? Wasn't that the Xbox
That
ring
was,
of
that was a red light in death, and it was
back
three,
now?
three dots.
There he is.
Yeah, but
Okay.
little chop.
Okay, a few words.
Repeat what you said, John.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah,
just the
I was talking about how battery manufacturers have a certain standard when the battery is done being manufactured, and they test these. And if it doesn't meet it, it goes into another bin, and they got certain bins that they use for different ratings. Those are the ones that the rewrap companies are buying. Is that right?
it's hard to tell because we can't get definite A grade cells to
Okay.
do a comparison with. Now, if someone told me that not once in the history of vaping have we seen an A grade cell, I would go, okay, yeah, I could believe that because we get stuff as excess inventory. I mean, the stuff, if I was a battery wrapping company, why would I buy A grade cells when no one can tell the difference between A and B grade? It's actually a tiny, tiny difference. It can even be hard to find in testing because every cell is a little bit different. So you get a range of performance for A grade, and then a range of performance for B grade, and there might be some overlap in there, on there, for two different batches or something like that. It can be hard. There's nothing inherently wrong with a B grade. It's just, okay, maybe on average it's 50 milliamp per hours less or something. No one's going to notice that. But
Yeah.
companies like LG will have A1, A2, A3, B1, B2, B3, C, and etc. And you can get those on the outside of the box, which, by the way, some companies will empty out all the A1 cells and put a bunch of B2 cells into the box, seal it back up, and sell them as A1 grade. So it's because it's so hard to test for. Most companies, a company like Samsung, and it's hard. This is just what I personally feel is going on. It's hard to say because Samsung's not going to sit down and say, "Here's how we do all this internal stuff." But I just made an electric vacuum cleaner. I would like some, really high rated cells, 30 amp 21700s, please, because I want this thing to scream like a Dyson and I need performance. And, but I don't want to buy A grade cells because I would like these battery packs to break down in a year and a half. So they buy a new vacuum cleaner from me because I'm making beaucoup dollars every time they do that. So I'd like some B grade cells, please. And I would get a price for B grade cells. Now, let's say it's a 4,000 milliamp per hour 21700. The B grades, my test is 3,900 milliamp per hour. For me, who cares? I don't care. It fits perfectly. I save 25 cents a cell, and no one's going to notice that difference. Here's the thing, though. If Samsung had labeled those as 3,900 milliamp per hour cells, they would be A grade cells. Because they're matching their ratings now. So there's nothing inherently wrong with the B grade. It's just if you've got the model number for 4,000 milliamp hour cell, and it tested 3,900, now it's lower grade. But if they came up with a new model number, bing, it's an A grade. So I think behind the scenes, there are negotiations, there are price points for different customers. If I test out a bunch of cells and they all, because every single cell for its first charge, what's called its formation charge, done very, very precisely in a very special way, and then it's tested. And now they can bin them or separate them to grades or get rid of the defective cells mostly. If I've got a whole bunch of 4,000 milliamp per hour cells, and every single one tested at 4,100, and all of them had low internal resistance, those are my super double A grade primo cells, I'm now going to tack on X percentage and contact certain clients who demand performance above price.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah.
And bam, and sell that to them. And I'm happy because I made those cells for the same price as my C grade and B grade and A grade cells. But these A plus ones, I can get better off of. Then the A's I'll contact these customers, or these customers who contacted me. They only want a certain grade. Then for the B's, I'll service those customers with them. The C's I might send out for recycling because I really can't sell them at all. Or who knows what. It's hard to find what the truth really is for the lower grade ones. And then to the ones that are just miserable, and I'll pack those all into big shipping crates and ship those off to China for recycling. Now, sometimes they make it to the recycling place. Other times they're diverted, maybe for power bank use or something else. Or I'll sell them to somebody who says, yes, we're going to use them for power banks. And now those get sold off as this 4,000 milliamp hour 30 amp battery, but they're low performing pieces of junk. But because it's got this thing on the wrap there from a company, let's call it Samsung for now. They'll be able to charge. They could charge, they can sell them for half price and still make a huge performance gain. And a lot of people won't know the difference because they don't want to face it that they may have gotten it. Who wants to admit they got fake batteries or they got fooled? Nobody.
Yeah, nobody.
So it's the bottom. Answer your question is. The question is, it all depends. It's really complicated. Companies are not going to talk. There's a lot of things going on, admitted and not admitted. No vapors, but they'll sell to a company that sells to vapors. It's all about not getting caught. In the end, we want to sell, and it's about not getting caught. And I can't fault them for that. That's just business. I can fault the wrapping companies for the bullshit. The manufacturers, no.
Have you dealt into like the two metals and how they really affect the batteries using like a brass mod or a copper mod or stainless steel or aluminum? Does using a different type of tube, does that really affect on the battery, or is that just the tube or the button itself?
I'm going to check with you guys to see if you can still hear me because I'm getting circles of death.
Yeah. A lot of times you stop, but we can still hear you. It's kind of a mixed bag.
Okay. If I'm still live now, then I'll try because all the circles of death have gone away. The choice of metal for the device, just the metal. I had people going into full-on apoplexy when I started talking about this stuff. A lot of people. Just the metal, if it's not stainless steel, makes almost no difference in the performance of a mech. This isn't me and my feelings. This is science. Look up the conductivity of the metal. If you have an 1/8 inch chunk of copper, aluminum, brass, they're all micro ohms of resistance. I don't care if one is 2 micro ohms and the other one's 22 micro ohms. 10 times more resistance. When you only have 1,000th of a volt drop in the 22 micro ohm metal, it doesn't matter that you have a 10,000th of a volt drop in the other metal. You can't feel the difference between 1,000th of a volt drop and a 10,000th.
I can feel it, Mooch. I can feel it, man.
Well, I get a lot of people going, Mooch, you're wrong, man. There's such a big difference between this, and one is brass and one is copper. And I'm like, it has nothing to do with the metal. This is physics. What makes the difference? 99.99% of the difference is not the metal. Now, stainless steel. Okay, there's a bit of a difference here because there's a huge difference in there. You might, but even then, if there's a 1 watt difference in the metals at 105 watt vape, almost no one's going to feel that difference. They all say they can, but if you do double blind on that, very few are going to be able to tell the difference because all these other variables play into it. How warm the coil is, your mood, it's the sequence, etc. What makes the difference is the threads, the contact patch in the threads. You just can't cut up a set of threads and go. these threads have to engage. The metal has to smear. You have to break oxide layers. The profile of the contact. Batteries aren't flat on the top or the bottom. Very few mech makers realize that. They design their contacts for flat batteries. There are no flat batteries. The surface smoothness on there. All these things matter. The degree of oxidation on things. Stainless steel, the chromium layer turns in chromium within a stainless steel contact, known as contacts, but the stainless steel threads. Chromium turns into a ceramic when it oxidizes, which is instantly. So you've got particles of ceramic mixed into your stainless steel. You can't get rid of it, but you can smear the stainless steel threads together to get that oxide layer broken. The same thing for even copper. As long as you're smearing the metal. So to answer your question, it's everything but the metal that's going to have almost all the performance difference between mechs. And I've got my own ideas about contact shape and smoothness and stuff like that. I would love to do like a 100% stainless steel mech, all of it, and have it perform as well as a brass, maybe even a copper mech, something like that. Just to go, look,
Yeah, look.
the metal.
Oh my gosh, we need it, Mooch. Get cracking.
Yeah, you need your name on a device.
In my copious spare time.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're not have a pilot test, I'm sure.
I got one more question, then Tim's got some questions after that. I have one random question, which would be Bill Nye or Mooch?
Of course he would freeze right then.
He doesn't look happy I asked that question.
No, it would be like Evie Blog or Bill Nye, maybe, or something like that. No, the science guy, it's great. That's he's now because a lot of people just don't want to look at something that was before. But he's awesome. I'm getting circled to death.
Yeah.
There he is.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're
okay.
back.
Okay. So your question was Mooch or Bill Nye? No, I'm not even in there. Bill Nye, or David E. Blog, or the Veritasium guys, or some of the other things that are out there.
Would you like to do a show with him?
With Bill Nye?
Yeah.
With Bill Nye?
Yeah.
That might be kind of fun. Maybe build a couple of different batteries or something. You get out the beakers of sulfuric acid, and a sheet of zinc, and a sheet of copper, and an LED, and you show people how to do something spectacularly dangerous, like build your own battery. But it's easy to do it just with a lemon and stuff. But or potato. You can make potato batteries too.
Those old science kits.
Yeah, exactly. Junior high school science lab kind of stuff.
Classic.
Go ahead, Timmy.
We'll actually
All right.
pick it to Tom real quick because he's got a viewer that wants to. They're going to be going to bed here real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, go for it.
All right, we have a viewer question from Dave Wise. Why do my 18650s have no power when they are
What does
cold?
Dave got?
In the winter, if I'm outside for a few hours.
Well, just think, how much power do we have when we're really cold? All we want to do is go back inside and get warm. I don't want to shovel the walk. I don't want to do anything when I'm cold. So batteries
I live in
same.
Wisconsin, so I have no power when it's cold out.
Yeah, so there we go. It's chemical reactions. All chemical reactions slow down. And this is what batteries are. It's not a physical electron storage bucket. They're actually chemical reactions, electrochemical reactions that go on, and those reactions slow down the colder the battery is. A battery actually perform better warm, not hot, because now that's aging the battery, but a warm battery. A lot of mech users don't realize that the first pull off a freshly charged battery does not perform as well as a third or fourth pull off a freshly charged battery. Because what happens is the battery starts warming up. So the internal resistance goes down. It's more efficient. So it performs better. The voltage of the battery rises up for the first 3 or 4 pulls. I'm assuming a pull every 30 seconds or every minute or so. If you put it down for 10 minutes, it's never warming up. But let's say every minute, every 30 seconds you take a pull, the voltage on that third or fourth pull is higher in a mech. And then you just started pulling out so much from the battery, it can't hold its voltage up anymore and it starts dropping down.
Yeah.
With a battery out in the cold, the reactions aren't as efficient. There's essentially a lot of resistance builds up inside the battery, and you have to use the battery a little bit, get it warmed up inside, or never let it get cold, and that's why that's when it'll start performing better. Never, ever charge a cold battery, though. That's a completely separate mechanism. If you charge a battery much below 32 degrees, 0 degrees Celsius, the lithium that goes back and forth inside the battery as ions will turn into a metal and plate the inside of your battery. That's bad. You don't want metal just forming inside parts of your normally non-conductive battery, because that could lead to an internal short circuit. So never charge a battery when it's cold. Always bring it inside, leave it for an hour, then charge it. But basically, cold batteries, it's just less efficient reactions, and so you get miserable performance, lots of voltage sag.
Yeah, my poor brother-in-law learned that lesson hiking up to the top of Mount Shasta. Went to take his camera out and only got 2 pictures on a full battery because it was so cold. He was so angry.
Yeah,
he thought he was going to get all these full pictures.
Everything's got to be in an inside, even just underneath the outside layer. It doesn't have to be against your skin or all the way underneath, because it's you freeze to death taking it in and out. Just get it, under some kind of insulation, so some of your body heat, because it's okay if it gets to 40, 50 degrees or something, maybe even 30. But if you're outdoors in 30, 20 degrees or something like that, and it's out, it's hanging outside, those batteries, particularly in a high drain kind of thing, like some batteries, the battery's so tiny, high drain could be 1 amp on there. That's too bad. But if you had a little bit of time, you could shove it inside.
Yeah, he got 2 amazing pictures. But that was it.
What some people do is you leave the camera outside, but you take out the batteries and put them in your pocket. And so when you're ready to take the picture, you pop the battery in the camera and you take the shots, and the battery stays warm because you're using it. And then when you're done, you pop the batteries back out again. But that can be hard to do with winter gloves.
With the gloves and freezing your butt off at the top of a mountain. Go ahead, Tim.
All right. So I'm learning some very interesting. So to all the kids out there in your mech cloud comps, they don't give you warm up shots. So your third pull, you probably would have won. But your first pull, that's all you get.
There you go.
Right, so I go ahead.
Tell better to that now. But none of them the third will be none of them the third will be worse than the first.
Okay, well that's good to know. All right, so you guys didn't get.
Go ahead.
All right. So I had a few questions, but I had one other question kind of pop up through all of the conversation that was coming up. So maybe I'll transition to that one. But my first question was, being that you're exposed to a lot of technology coming in the form of batteries, what do you think will be the next biggest advancement in batteries? Upgrades in existing technologies or advancement in battery form factors? So what I'm getting at is, do you see incremental change in, say, like the existing 1860, 50 formats and the 21700s, or do you see, obviously the vape technology would have to keep up with those changes in form factor, but I guess that was the question. I mean, what do you see more often? You see just old hat stuff improved, or do you see different things coming out more often? I hope that question got through.
He got the ring.
Do you guys see the ring?
He's good. Wait. Mooch has the best throw. Yeah, you're back.
Yeah, you're back.
Okay.
A little bit.
That time I saw. It's funny. I'm seeing the pattern. You guys start ringing up, and then I disappear. So that's why I didn't answer the question until I start. I'm like, wait, no, they're going to say he disappeared, and I'll just wait. There's two two aspects to answering that question. There's new form factors. Well, it's really pouch cells or round cells. The pouch cells are easier to make in some ways. They're lighter, volumetrically more efficient, and they can pack more battery goop into a box with pouch cells because they're no metal cans. If you stack up a bunch of round metal cans, you got all this empty space between the cells. That reduces efficiency for what you get on a battery pack. But that's not for vaping. For vaping, there's be the slow, inevitable improvement. You have old cells like the HG2, the Samsung 25R. I mean, 25Rs were like, gift from the gods for years and years. It's what everyone used. You still get mech users who say it's the most incredible battery they've ever had out there. But that is some really old, not great performing technology compared to, VTC 5As, 5Ds, the Moly cells, and some of the other much newer technologies that are coming out now. Those cells are only on the market now because you get the military who go through a huge testing thing to get a 25R approved. They're not going to spend that money to get a Moly cell approved. They're going to use Samsung 25Rs for the next 50 years, even though there might be much better cells out there. It's just not worth it to get something else approved when the 25R will still work well enough. There'll just be niche applications that'll drive better development, like they're using some standard military battery packs. They're just recently switching from nickel metal hydride to lipos. Because there's some issues, you got enough problems with bullets flying around. You really don't need a flaming lipo battery pack on your back in the middle of an artillery bombardment or something. So there are the other practical concerns. But there's also the things where, and you touched on this just a little bit, there are better technologies out there. But how do you get China to say, okay, we'll make a different form factor
for vaping?
We'll make one that takes like the little camera, pucks, kind of thing. Just these little flat things you can slide in and out. Well, those are great. They've got protection built into them. Everything. Maybe you push 1, 2, or 3 of those up in the bottom of a device, or the solid state batteries, which are going to exist as pouch cells and what they call prismatics, the little rectangular flat things. That's all they're going to exist in for years. I don't know how long it's going to take before solid state batteries, the ultra safe technology that's coming out now, will ever exist, in a round cell. And unless the equipment manufacturers say, okay, yeah, we'll change over to some rectangular flat thing or battery pack or something, we'll never get to use it, in spite of how popular it might be outside the vaping community. We're always going to be years behind it if we ever change over, unless one company comes out and says, bang, and it starts selling like crazy, which I don't think it will, because a lot of people will be saying, why should I only buy batteries from one company? Or those batteries aren't sold in my country. And it's going to really limit progress. The only progress I think the community is going to see is a new color, a new material, that's it. Ultim, as opposed to being able to use something. For at least a couple of years now, I've been looking into developing a safer battery for the community. And you always bump into this limitation of, round cells, and you're never going to get China to say, okay, yeah, we'll invest in to try to create a new standard. And they don't, in spite of them all working towards the same kind of goal, a lot of them hate each other, but all these China companies aren't going to get together and say, hey, you know what, I think we can all make a lot of money if we come up with some kind of new standard that would give us the flexibility to take on new battery developments in the future. So let's all make mods this new standard.
Right.
It's not going to happen because you got to get the battery wrapping companies involved and other things there. It's a huge issue that's always going to leave us flashlight users. Who else is out there? Power banks a little bit. No, they can use pouch cells, but like the flashlight users, the vapors are always going to be way behind what's going to be available to other communities out there in terms of safer cells and better technologies.
Right.
So you don't think we'll ever have something like this to just pop into a mod?
What was that? I'm sorry. You're about 1 inch
Just,
in height.
just a
Yeah.
square battery. We'll never
It's
see.
kind of like a camera battery almost.
I don't think so. I can't see a China company going, yeah, we'll give you 3 slots and you can have 1, 2, or 3 the power levels you're at or something like that. It's something I think there's it's not hard to do technically. It's just the companies say, yep, we're going to take some good lipos because that's what's inside those little square batteries.
Yeah.
And we're gonna make some kind of modular system. You had Anakin with the disruptor with the click-on tank of a battery pack, protected battery pack. There was a single round cell inside there, and it had protection circuitry, some good contacts. It was ugly, it was big, but it was innovative as hell.
It was sweet,
but it didn't
I
sell.
love that thing.
Yeah, it sell, and I think a lot of companies just went, "Whoa, okay, forget innovation. We can come out with clear Ultim. Yeah, we'll do that. For a different type of mod or something like that, as opposed to anything with the batteries. I'm hoping.
Yeah.
I'm hoping in, I don't know, 10 years when solid state batteries everywhere are being used, that some company will go, we would like to have the safest mod in the vaping community. We're gonna, come up with a rectangular battery or create a battery pack.
Yeah.
Use these solid state batteries that are now coming out of the labs for very specific uses.
Right. That's I just was curious about that because I mean, like you said, every now and again you see a new battery kind of show up on the market, and I always have to wonder, well, are we just seeing the same old technology again from a different company, or are we actually seeing an advancement in the technology and obviously we've come from somewhere to somewhere else. I mean, the HG2s and the older the 25Rs, clearly we've made some advancements, or they have at least. So that would lead me to my second question. So maybe it's already even answered at this point, but the question was: so do you see the vaping technology outgrowing what the batteries can keep up with, or do you see that staying relatively consistent? Meaning that as new devices come out, they kind of stay in a box where we're not really needing a newer type of or a more advanced battery to keep up with what the vaping community is doing. Do they design around what is available to them?
For the last part of your question, the companies say, hey, what's out there, and we'll build a mod to it. They're not going to think about or invest in any kind of new battery technology or something like that. You've got a couple of things going on, as always. The answer is complicated. We always can use better performing batteries, because right now, from years and years of bullshit ratings, I think the community still has the unreasonable expectations for battery performance. Because, hey, in 2014, we had the 35 amp eFest. But now eFest is calling them 20 amp. What the hell?
Yeah.
Well, that's because in 2014 that was a 10 amp battery that they called 35 amp. But it set up very unreasonable expectations, I think, for batteries. So what we're doing now is our expectations have frozen, kind of saying, hey, we always want 35 amps, and batteries are slowly starting to just catch up to that. So we really could use a genuine 35 amp 18650. I don't think it's going to happen for a while because there's very little market for it. I think a lot of us would love it, would love that, but we can get it in a 21700. So even then, you just tell someone, go to a 21700, you can get a 35 amp battery that way. So maybe a 50 amp 21700. Yeah, mech users and some other people would love that. Be able to do 150 watts with a single 21700. There's a market for that device. I think, or battery life for days at 100 watts, something much more popular, 80 to 100 watts, 75 to 100, where so many people are vaping. And so I think there is opportunities there. The market, I don't think is go that. The market is very much towards energy cells, namely lots and lots of capacity at lower current ratings. Electric vehicles, energy storage systems for solar farms, instead of big lead acid batteries, you put in lithium. The Tesla wall that just has lots of Tesla batteries and round cells, 18650s inside, to store power from your solar panels or something like that.
Right.
That's where the market is. The market isn't, you've got small markets like electric vacuum cleaners that want 35 amp batteries. They would love a 40 amp battery, 18650 or 21700. I think our expectations or what we want are always going to be beyond what the technology can deliver. Anything that comes out, we're going to use and abuse. Because if someone says, here's a 40 21700, they go, great, I've got a 60 amp build for that. I can finally run my 0.03s on a mech.
What's the pulse rating on it?
And not worry about it.
Right.
Yeah, there we go. So I think there'll always be a market there, but I think we have such exaggerated expectations. I'd almost want to say, hey, I would almost want us to not change how we vape. Why those bad connotations, and then you guys are starting to go into circles of death.
You're back.
Okay, I can always hear you through all my disappearing. I can hear you guys. So you cue me when I disappeared. I'd almost want us to say, hey, we're 35 amp vapors now. That's kind of a nice mark for a power user. They want 35 amps from whatever battery they're using. Let the batteries catch up to that. Keep us as the and let those batteries come up. Now, when the 40 amp batteries come out, but we're still batteries, that's great. Now we're using efficiently, and we're going to get great performance, really long battery life. When they can become 50 amp batteries, okay, let's bump us up to 40, 45. That's a pipe dream. That's preposterous, because as soon as the 40 amp battery comes out, they'll be used at 40, 50, 60, and stuff like that. Because there'll always be people who want to push it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered your question, though.
No, I think you did. I mean, it kind of makes sense because a lot of us here are longtime vapors, whereas maybe some of the people that watch the show are maybe a little bit more recent, right? And I mean, there's been a lot of advancements in the vape world. Mechs, they're just basically a straight power tube. But when we all started vaping, we were all at really low wattages. You're looking at anywhere between 10 to maybe 20 watts. Whereas nowadays with the regulated market and the coil ratings that are coming out with the sub-ohm tanks and all that other stuff, I mean, everything is calling for a much higher wattage push to that coil in order to get the vape that you want out of it. So it was just a question to say, well, is the vape technology technically starting to outgrow what the batteries are capable of really dealing with? I mean, like you say, use and abuse. But so you did answer the question. In relative terms.
That aspect of it is, to me, I think it's a really, really good question, because outgrows what? A single battery mod performance? Well, yes, possibly. Yeah. But we can always add 2 or 3 batteries. Now we're able to pump 100 watts continuously into this, 1 ounce coil. And get decent ramp up times before you have to stop, because you're pumping 100 watts into something that can only be run at 28 watts once it heats up. You just want 100 so it heats up, because it's an ounce of metal. So so much of it depends on really what are you really talking about. I don't think we've exceeded what batteries can do. I just think we have unrealistic expectations from what they can do. But there'll always be a desire to not have to have 3 batteries for an all-day 100-watt vape. I want to have 1 battery for an all-day 100-watt vape. So in that way, yes, the technology is not up to what we would love to have batteries do for us.
I think I noticed that. That's true. I mean, that's actually one element of the vaping world I haven't tinkered in. Like, I don't have one of those pure lipo battery box mods. I mean, those things look brutal, but I mean, I'm sure they're fun. I just haven't graduated that far. But I think really what it's become more about nowadays is portability, right? I mean, I'm not talking about, these are portable, these are convenient, easy to use little pods and stuff like that, just because, you have that portability. I mean, not that many people want to walk around all day with something like that. But conversely, compared to that, it's one thing to carry around like a single 21700 mod, which is a little bit more compact and easy to deal with in the hand, than walking around with some triple battery, or a dual battery device all day long. I mean, they're great, they're gorgeous, but I mean, I would just much prefer to leave that stuff at home. So I think people are now looking for smaller form factors. They want to get this. They want this to come out of that, and that's probably not realistic either. So, but I mean, they're doing a pretty good job. I mean, you get a good vape off one of these, you get a great vape off one of those. Anyway, you did answer the question, so I don't know. I'm interjecting my own commentary at this point.
Yeah. Well, it points out to what's happening in the market now. I think too, a lot of the small devices came out with like 700 milliamp hour batteries, and people are like, okay, we love this tiny little thing, but can we use it all day? And now you're starting to see them come up to 1,000, 1,400 milliamp hour. Yeah, they're getting bigger, but they're still a lot smaller than what the market had a couple of years ago. And I think they're finding, that, hey, the tiniest of tiny, yes, there's that jewel market and the total stealth market, but otherwise, a lot of people just want something, like you say, a lot more convenient. Like, what is it, the Scepter or that other one, Spectre or Scepter or something, kind of nice, like what I call a Snickers bar with rounded corners, that kind of, size, not jewel, but also not 21700 bulk, that thing. And they just wanted more battery time in there. And they're learning, whoa, okay, let's spend another 25 cents a cell. We can pack a 1,400 milliamp or 1,000 milliamp hour battery in there instead of a 700. Hey, now if you're not going crazy, you can go most of the day with that thing. And people are like, yeah, it's just times I don't want to drag around a box mod. I want this cute little thing that it can actually fit in a shirt pocket and not drag it down to my waist.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's very valid because, but I think what I'm seeing on a personal level is, I mean, obviously you want battery life all day, but the designers who are coming up with things like this are able to somehow find some middle ground there to make all those parts meet. So you get a small form factor, you get a reasonable battery size, yet you get performance out of it. And I think that's really the end result, because that's what keeps us from smoking, is if you get the satisfying vape from the device we're using, really that's the success story in it all. So yeah, I just was curious if the industry was starting to outgrow the capability of the batteries that are on the market. Because you did bring up, and I don't know, maybe this question can get answered by anybody on the panel at this point, but Mooch mentioned that batteries aren't necessarily designed for the vaping community. So how do you explain away companies like Home Life or Advocacy, where it seems as though they target a specific vaping market? I mean, what are we dealing with in terms of how those batteries make it into our hands? I mean, because clearly they're not like, oh, hey, buy these Advocacies for your flashlight. I mean, they're basically selling you a battery for a vape device. The wheels of death have come to get us again.
Yep. I'll do my waving hand thing.
Yeah, you're there.
Okay.
It takes a second. There you go.
There's big difference between manufactured for vaping, which no battery has ever been done, and marketed to vapors, which is what Home Life, Advocacy, and all the others are. Those are cells, in my opinion, stocked cells. Now, the company Home Life could, let's say, Home Tech could say, we like this stock battery. Yeah, Home Tech could say, we like the stock battery. Could you bump down the internal resistance 10%, and we'll give you an extra 25 cents a cell, because it makes it more competitive for us. And the factory would go, okay, yeah, we'll do that. 250,000 cells a year, minimum order quantity, we'll do that for you. Home Tech goes, sure. Now, is that a cell manufactured for vaping? Home Tech will argue it is, but it's not, because vaping doesn't use anything different in a battery than a flashlight or a vacuum cleaner or a fan or a power bank does. It delivers current, it's round, and it generates electrons. That's it. So it's the same thing. There is no battery made for vaping. Never has, never will be, I think. Well, no, you could make a safer battery and then have in a different form factor, then new mods that fit that, and there's a battery made for vaping, but you could use for anything. We don't need anything different from a battery. In fact, something like a vacuum, like the ultra high capacity batteries for energy storage systems, that's great for low power vapor. The ultra high current batteries from electric vacuum cleaners, that's perfect for the high-powered people. What's
Yeah.
perfect, batteries made for vaping are the things selected from the applications where that battery fits the vapor style. So Galeese does, I think they have a lot of flashlights or that X-Tar, but I forgot. Oh, Galeese has all the charges. So maybe it's X-Tar I'm thinking of. That just makes for marketing. Someone's going to go, oh, if it's made for vaping, this is somehow a better battery.
Yeah.
And home tech is super, with the science, with the
They
lingo
got
and the jargon.
The Ohm's law integration into the labeling.
Yeah, and it means nothing. It's not any different than anything else.
Yeah.
Okay, they have insurance. That can mean a lot for a shop. But the batteries perform the same as everybody else's.
Right. Yeah, I hear a lot of people kind of not put a knock on the home tech brand. They just basically claim that they're just rewraps, that they're not the highest quality batteries. But I mean, I think that might be an opinion.
We're going to jump to Anthony. Anthony, some questions for Mooch?
Yeah, Mooch. Since you've been involved with vaping, how much do you think vape safety, maybe how much do you think vape safety itself has improved, and how much do you think, the education has improved? To come back?
He's there.
The what has improved? The second part?
The education of vapor safety.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, I would say things were going pretty well until we all started blowing ourselves up in 2018, 2019. The thing is, you have a worldwide community, and the levels of education are fundamentally different in different countries. I think America and the EU have come a long way in terms of battery and device safety, as the devices have gotten better. You look at the devices and the junk that was being built in 2015, and you look now where it's hard to find a piece of junk vaping device. There's just not that many of them. These companies have learned, your reputation takes a hit for years. eFest, with their crap, eFest, about 2018, started settling down and rewrapping some decent batteries, and they started jumping on the China manufactured cell bandwagon, like all of them are. It's a more consistent supply. Even though it may not be a better cell, it's a consistent supply at a low price. That's a really attractive option for a battery wrapping company, especially consistent supply. And even if it's a worse cell, they're like, at least we can order them. We don't have to hunt all over for something. And I think for at least the EU and US, there's more awareness of the safety. Whether they care or not, I don't know. I think for countries, particularly like, Eastern and Western Asia, no, because all they have are 3 or 4 or 5 different rewrap cells with 40, 50, 60 amps on them. Very few of them are blowing themselves up. And so they think 40, 50, 60 amps is perfectly legitimate because they have 0.03, 0.05 builds for these 60 amp batteries. They're rated 10 amps. So they have to use a 0.03 build to get the power level high enough because the voltage sinks down to like 2 volts. Well, with a 2-volt battery, you need a really low resistance coil to get any kind of power going. This is weird thing going on there with this function, but in a way that almost protects them because the battery voltage is so low now. There's not a lot of power left in the thing to cause an explosion. It's very weird. I won't go into the technical part of it too much, but I think you still have a segment of any of the countries where they say, I've been vaping like this for 9 years and I haven't blown myself up yet. And there's just no changing that. And you have to wait almost for a whole new generation of vapors to come along and say, oh, okay, they've never heard of a 35 amp eFest. They just say, what battery should I buy? And someone goes, look at Mooch's chart or look at HKJ, who does astounding charger test and battery test. Heinrich, fantastic battery tester. And look at their results, and they start from there. I don't know if I can actually answer your questions. So much of it is what demographic are we talking about, which country stuff. I think overall the trend has been good, but then everybody was blowing themselves up. Well, actually, you know what? Maybe we're always blowing ourselves up, but everybody was getting lawyers and everybody was getting in the newspapers in 2018. Right. 2018, 2019. Maybe we're still doing that to ourselves. We're just not calling up the local news bureau to report it now, or it's not the big action item that everyone says, hey, here's how we can get a bunch of hits. Let's report on any accident we find, kind of thing. It's kind of passed on in terms of what they want to put up for hits on their website.
Right.
Definitely, yeah. And like kind of what we were talking about a little bit earlier, when I got into following you and really diving deep into the batteries, it wasn't necessarily that, I wanted to know everything about batteries. Like I thought it was a little bit interesting, but it was, running a shop, it was more about like, okay, I want to be able to educate my customers with the correct information so that for one, they're safe and that I'm safe. Because I mean, overall, I'm a vapor too, I don't want to be the one that's blowing my hand off by doing something incorrectly or unsafe. And I don't want to push that on to my customers. I don't want to teach them, it was more just not necessarily diving so deep into all the information, but more of just about, educating and continuing the education that you shared with me on to my customers. And, I can't thank you enough for how much we appreciate it as people that work at shops. I mean, you are lifesaver.
Absolutely.
Thank you for those kind words. I think that's a lot of it too.
Go ahead.
Good.
Don't remember what I was going to say now. So go ahead.
But yeah,
I do that all the time.
Yeah, we do that all the time. No, it's just amazing now. Like I've been in the ZampleBox family page on Facebook for many years now. Now that I'm an admin as well, I've been there an admin for a long time. And it's funny when someone posts a battery question, it's like automatic. The first thing that's posted right after they're done is go to Mooch's Facebook page. Go to Mooch's Facebook. I mean, it's instant now. It's just it's great to see because we could answer the question but it's our opinion. It's the way we vape. Everybody vapes a little different.
Well, we know the question is, what's the best battery?
Yeah, we get that one.
That's the number one question everyone wants to know.
What is the best battery? And then the next question is, what device do you have? What ohms are you vaping at?
Yeah, I get that.
Go ahead.
We're spinning. He's spinning. The world is spinning.
Still back?
Oh,
yeah, go ahead. Well,
okay, good. As long as you guys can see me.
We want to thank you for your time and for joining us tonight and answering some of our questions. It's been awesome.
Love having you, man.
We'd love to have you back anytime you'd like to come back and touch on some other subjects. And we're going to jump into our goodbyes real quick. Tim, go ahead.
Me? Why are you always calling me first?
Well, you're next to me. You can say goodbye to Mooch.
Oh, absolutely. Mooch,
the
absolutely,
pressure,
sir.
The pressure.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe you're the one who can handle this pressure the best.
Yeah,
you never know with the hippie, right? So we're about to find out. No, I just want to say, Mooch, it was absolute pleasure having you here on the show with us. I mean, to all of us here, you're nothing short of a legend in a lot of ways to us. I mean, we lean on you for a lot of our battery advice, and you've not only educated us, but you've helped us to educate other people, which is why we keep the circle going. It's all about community, and we want to educate the people that listen to us. We want people to have success stories in this particular endeavor. So it's just been amazing having you here on the show. I know it's been a bit of a science lesson, but I think it was well deserved for everybody watching the show. And we'd love to have you back anytime. But seriously, sir, thank you for coming on the show.
Go ahead, Brian.
I'm one of those people that I remembered when Mooch came on the scene and slowly, started, bringing that knowledge out there about all these batteries and all the safety. And for me, it was like, who is this guy and how does he know so much? And what can I get from him to help out all my customers? And so it was just a magnet from then on and to help everyone else. And so it's to me, it's like a huge thank you for you just being there to help everyone else out. And I don't think, my opinion is I don't think you understand how much of a huge impact you've really had in the industry, and done phenomenal work, and want to thank you for that. And thanks for being on the show. Just anytime, just like Tim said, you're welcome back anytime.
Come on back, just hang out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Tommy boy, man, a few words here, Mooch. So,
Well, what can I say that hasn't already been said? I mean,
as long as you don't say what Tim said, and then go to Anthony.
Damn it!
I'm going to cover my bases.
No, seriously, what both of the gentlemen before me said. Thank you, and thank you for everything that you've done for the industry in terms of battery safety. It does mean a lot. And like I tell people, you are the gold standard. What you say is like gospel.
Which actually pisses me off. That
Sorry?
No, not what you're saying. Not what you're saying.
Look ahead. Let him.
What bothers me is I'm the gold standard. How pathetic is that an entire community has one person who's doing this?
Yeah.
That has always bothered me. I right from the start, I always hoped that what I was doing would inspire a bunch of people to go, yeah, I would like to do that too. When we'd have 5 or 6 people cross-checking results, comparing, testing hundreds of more cells, there was this grand and glorious vision of education and safety. What I didn't realize was, as soon as I started doing it, everyone else said, "Thank God, no one now I don't have to do this anymore."
Well, I'll straight up say I'm not smart enough to do it. So
they all sent the letter to China. Dear China, send everything to Mooch.
Yeah.
and you are always welcome back on the show, sir. Always.
Thank you.
And our man Anthony.
Mooch, man. Thank you for so much for everything that you've done for the community, for coming on the show tonight. I mean, really, like, I don't think you can fully understand how much of a lifesaver you are to so many shops out there.
I'll email you the address for the check.
Yeah,
that's right.
Text in the mail.
Donations, and I'll be waiting to see that. Maybe no voltage drop stainless steel mod sometime.
Yeah, you brought it up.
It's a dream. But you have to find a manufacturer to go, yeah, we've got 50,000 for that, and they're no.
Hey, with your name on the side of it, it'll sell.
That's right.
Decorate. Well, unless I get the prototypes and go, oh,
what the hell?
I was wrong. Sorry, guys.
My bad, China. We got 50,000.
It's okay. You can make it in copper.
Just make it.
Yeah. The 50,000. We're going to sell them as flashlights. We'll make an LED screw on top on them. You can sell them off as stainless steel flashlights, and just do it in copper. It'll sell.
Yeah, it'll sell. Well, again, thank you again, Mooch. We appreciate your time, and welcome back anytime. And you can stay on. We're gonna switch over to Anthony's going to do a quick unboxing for us. If you want to watch it, you can stay on. If you need to go, I understand the time difference there, so you're welcome to stay on if you like.
I do actually have to buzz. Thank you for the invite and stuff. But it is a couple hours after dinner time, and I'm getting ready to do the fainting thing, and all. But I appreciate the invite. Thank you for the time. Thank you for letting me do my techno ranting and techno babbling. It's rare when I get a chance to talk about things and my weirdly specific techno interests on things and other rants about the state of the industry and technology questions for the future and stuff like that. So I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you very much. And thank everybody out there for and for my 15-minute answers that could have probably been answered by anybody else in about 8 seconds.
No.
I have 15-minute questions. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, calling all electrical engineers out there. Mooch is looking for someone to assist him. Okay, if you're a vapor and you know this stuff and you're not helping Mooch, we need you. Come on.
It's time. A lot of people have the knowledge, but it's someone that has the knowledge. The knowledge is easy. That's nothing. It's time to do the testing.
Yeah. And I learned a lot more about
and the money. I mean, tens of thousands of dollars and thousands of hours. And someone else has to go, yeah, that sounds like what I want to do. It's just,
I'm trying to sell it for you, Mooch. Come
it's
on.
just on.
All right. Thank you, Mooch.
I've
Thanks,
kind of
Mitch.
taken the pessimistic approach. Thank you very much, guys. I'll find out which button it is, but thank you for the invite. And oh, there's a leave button. That's handy. Guys,
Take it easy.
thank you.
Thank
Take care.
All right.
Everyone in
bye-bye.
chat too. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. We are going to jump into we're going to do our ZampleBox salt unboxing with our very own Anthony. And let me give Anthony solo screen.
I even
What's in the
got it.
box?
Wait,
What's
wait.
in the box?
Everybody do what he did to everybody last week. What's in the box, Anthony? Anthony, what's in the box?
What's in the box,
Wanna know?
Anthony?
You want to know? Let's get in it. Let's get it. Okay. You know, we got our classic menu card, which we'll get to in a minute. Of
Yeah.
course, the beautiful rating card, which if you're not using this, please use it. We love to see these on Instagram. I reshare them, I repost them, and I want to know what flavors you love. Okay.
Yeah.
And then this month, my stickers. Oh, it looks like I got the mod
I
pyramid.
got that one. I got that one.
Damn it.
And yeah, so let's get right into it here. Got our foam thing, and then we'll give you a nice little overview here. I did have a top-down camera cooking, but it was not working today very well. But yeah, let's here. I'm just gonna read through them. I have a 12 bottle box, so I do have quite a few flavors in here. But it looks like there's a couple brands that are actually new additions that we just recently added. So I'm really
Hold
excited.
on. Time
I
out.
hope you don't have anything I got.
Time out. There's a 12 bottle box subscription for salt?
Oh yeah, maybe a 12 bottle.
Bro, where have you been, Troncali?
I
It's
thought it was
literally the
only
best
six.
deal on salts that you could probably find.
I thought it was only six for reals. I thought it was only six. That's awesome.
No, 3, 6, 12.
Yeah,
Wow.
man. Look at that's 12 full bottles. Come on.
All right. I learned something today.
So first off, from one of our new brands, this is Taylor Vapes.
Oh, he got what I got.
Yeah. Oh well. So the Taylor Vapes. This is caramel tobacco. We also have a. I'm gonna do all the Taylor Vape ones first because they're just right here in front of me. I have strawberry crunch, which is going to be kind of like those strawberry kind of crunchy bars, like the little ice cream things. I have their cool menthol mint. And then our other new brand is Elysian Labs, which where's my focus point on this lens? I don't know. Oh, kind of
Put your hand in front of it. Yeah. Behind it, actually.
Elysian.
Elysian.
That sounds like a video game.
Yeah, Elysian Labs and Taylor Vapes are probably two of the newest brands that we just added. So if you guys haven't checked out the flavors from them, I highly recommend them. Really, really good guys out there. And yeah, so from Elysian, it looks like I got the Wildfire, which is the tropical fruit menthol.
Yeah.
And then the other one that I got was Dragon Glass. And I believe Dragon Glass is the chill mango dragon fruit.
Ooh, that sounds good.
That sounds really good.
So
Dragon fruit's one of those flavors, man. I just fell in love with thanks to ZampleBox. I had no idea what the hell dragon fruit was until I was.
Dragon fruits. Dragon fruit and lychee, man. Those two weird vape flavors that just came out of nowhere. The next one I have Citrus City, and it's a craze berry limeade. We have some Spectrum from Prism Vape. This flavor, it says, what does this one say it is? This one looks like it's some kind of berry mix. We got Rock from Vibe. This one is going to be kind of like a creamy type of custard flavor. We got some Black Label Green Jacket. We got some Bombshell Maryland. We got some Main Street Skyscraper and some iLiquid Vanilla Custard. These last couple flavors here, it looks like we have a Blue Raspberry Menthol. Maryland, I believe, is a strawberry kind of cake custard similar to the Taylor Vapes. And the Green Jacket, apple.
Apple.
Nice.
Those are all 25 milligrams.
Yeah, 25 milligrams. Yeah. I normally can't go higher than the 25 milligrams. I did a hot stint with the 50 milligrams when all the Nick salt, came out originally, and learned the hard way that I don't need 50 milligrams.
What if the ZampleBox is doing 25 and what have you got?
25 and 50 milligrams. So we got our high strength and our low strength box. Possibly a middle of the box coming soon, maybe.
Ooh, 35?
Yeah. So what do you guys think I should try? I'm thinking, one of these Taylor vapes or one of these Elysian ones.
I'll make you a deal. I'll make you a deal there, Anthony. Anthony ZB. How about you do one of the Elysians, because I didn't get any of those, and I got all the Taylors. Everything in my box is a Taylor. So you do an Elysian, next week I'll do a Taylor.
All right, so should we do tropical fruit menthol or chill mango dragon fruit?
I'm going with number 2.
Number 2.
Dragon fruit it is.
Fruit it up.
So luckily I have a really sweet, I hate to say it, it's a smoke vape shop, but this guy's good. This guy knows his stuff, man. I was in there and I asked him, I need an Orion pod and blah, blah, blah. And he's all asking me what type of Orion pod. And he's got a couple different ones, and he actually knew at a smoke shop. I was impressed.
Wow.
Because I realized that we were gonna do this tonight, and then I also realized that I didn't have any more pods because they're on order. So I had to make a quick little run across the street over here. So,
is that sucker primed?
Oh, I'm gonna prime it up.
He's gonna prime it.
Man.
I just don't want to see. I don't want to see Anthony get a dry hit on his
not
test.
a rook.
Close airflow.
He's gonna set his pod down for 15 minutes.
And we'll be back in 15 minutes.
Yeah, right. Show's running over, kids. We got to prime our pod.
Come on, prime faster.
No, let it prime. Let it prime.
Let me hit you with a hot speed.
I noticed with those Orion pods, if you put your finger over the top where the airflow is instead of on the bottom, completely close off the airflow with your fingers too. It really helps.
Oh yeah, that's what I was doing. I was trying to.
I wasn't sure if you got it or not. I can usually taste the flat air.
We're dropping hints on people all night long.
Yeah.
All right.
I did also just speed juice it too, so I dropped a little bit.
Yeah, you dropped a little bit in there.
Ain't nobody got time to wait for me to prime a pod. Come on, people. All right, so here we go. This is the Elysian Dragon Glass.
Now, if he inhales and starts coughing, we know he did it wrong.
Mango dragon fruit. All right.
Well, with no power, it tastes good.
Ooh.
Gotta love those no power hits.
Come on.
It's very airy.
Oh, what?
You're lucky I don't have my soundboard working right now. I'd give you that tick, tick, tick.
I think I just hyped up my local shop, and now they gave me a dead pod.
Did you forget to take the little sticker off?
These ones don't have it. No, these are the old school Q ones.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
Got a bum pod.
Hold on.
Contacts are wet.
Live troubleshooting.
Orion, if you're watching.
It tastes so good, but I can't vape it. No.
Uh-oh.
All right, here's what we're going to do.
If it helps, I have a fully charged one sitting right here.
just strip it.
You're not that far from North Dakota.
Here, we're gonna toss it in Anthony's other pod with just a normal hot drip action.
There you go.
What I can taste without this pod working that I just spent $6.99 for.
Yeah,
exactly.
We'll
worth more than $6.98. You got to recharge.
Yeah, and I mean how much juice is in there? Come on, man.
Yeah, we're gonna go after that guy. You want to name?
There we go.
You want to name the shop? No, I'm kidding.
Did you have the airflow open on the other pod?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the hot drip that I just dropped in here, I had a fruit flavor in previously. It was pretty low. It was like a strawberry banana. I can't taste it at all. It's all the mango is super bright. I would say the menthol itself is kind of like a medium low menthol. I'd probably say low medium, not medium low. So if you want like a super frozen vape, I would say that this is probably not quite cold enough for you. But as far as the mango goes, on point, and mixed with the dragon fruit's really good. Normally, I mean, I've had mango mixed with just about every other fruit out there, but I don't think I've ever had it with dragon fruit.
Yeah, I don't think I have it either with dragon fruit.
And yeah, because dragon fruit's kind of a lighter flavor, but it's adding a nice little tropical dance in the background or something. I don't know what it is, but so far I'm a big fan, and I'll report back next week when I get a new coil.
Yeah. Does it, when you vape it, does it make you want to take your shoes and socks off and walk in the sand?
Oh yeah, I mean, that's just been 6 months of gray here in Washington. We don't have summer, okay?
Yeah. Oh man. Well, guys, that's our show. We are going to do our quick goodbyes, and when I say quick, I mean quick. So, Tommy, you can go first.
Bye. Thanks for coming by.
Tommy's. Anthony.
Catch y'all later, folks. Come on back next week. We'll have a good show. Maybe I'll be able to actually vape on Dragonfly for the whole week, and I'll tell you what I really think about it. And I'll be super pumped to see Tim next week try the Taylor vapes, because I'm probably gonna have to buy like a pack of.
You can cheat and try them during the week. I don't care.
Oh, I'm gonna. I'm not waiting for you.
All right, Mr. Brian.
Thanks everyone tuning in. Like, subscribe, I'll do all that fun stuff. Thanks Anthony for being on, Mooch, and everybody else, and that's it. Thank you.
And our man Timmy.
Yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet. Thanks everybody for showing up. Thanks for taking part in our community here, and we're going to keep the show rolling. More excellent guests to come, more excellent content to come. Keep tuning in. Advocate, advocacy. Vape on, vape strong. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Tim. I want to thank Mooch again for coming and joining us tonight. It was awesome having him on here. Like Tim said, and everybody else, we got a lot of great guests coming, and a lot of great shows to come. So hopefully you'll join us again next Wednesday at same time, 6 p.m. On the ZampleBox YouTube channel. Also, if you're new to the ZampleBox channel, hit the subscribe button. You see that little bell? Hit that bell and you'll be notified when new content is uploaded. Thank you again, and good night, everybody.
Stay safe.
Later.